think we're about to just spend the next 10 minutes discussing a load of players that I never thought I'd probably discuss in association with West Ham, that's for sure. It's going to be a weird old transfer roundup. There's so much news, so much to pack into 10 minutes. I better stop doing this introduction, really, hadn't I? Look, our first batch of players is coming from ex-West Ham United employee. Now, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. They've come via his Patreon, but I've tried to be very respectful. They're already well out in the public domain. But I guess if you want this stuff early from X, you better go and sign up to his Patreon anyway. But this stuff's out there now. So but I think it's only fair to credit him with the stories anyway. So this is basically what he said. There's sort of, again, I'm getting this sort of third hand because I'm reading it from West Ham Football, which is Sean's Twitter page, but it helps me condense it all into one. Basically, there's been some discussions. So ex-West Ham United employee said that we might be interested in some of the players that went to Saudi Arabia. But I mean, just recently went to Saudi Arabia. Sorry, I've just checked my microphone. Well, just recently went to Saudi Arabia, like in the last window. How fed up must they be? Jordan Henderson and Firminho, the two players that went from Liverpool and went over there. Now, I always get me Firminhos and me Fabinhos mixed up, but if I think I got this right, it's the Firm and not the Fab. Now, why has it lasted such a short period of time? I just don't get it. Did they expect it to be cold or something and they got out there and were surprised? I don't know. I mean, it seems a little bit fishy, truth be known, because I think for some of these players, not Firmino maybe, but certainly Jordan Henderson, did they not pay a transfer fee for him? I think they might have done. I don't know. It just seems a little bit odd. I think under normal circumstances, had you have asked me if I wanted Jordan Henderson at West Ham, say no. I'd looked at Liverpool just before he left and thought one of the areas that they absolutely needed some reinforcements was in midfield. I thought to a certain extent he was sort of a little bit past it, really. I think I sort of mocked when Gareth Southgate continued to pick him after he'd made the move to Saudi. However, what is clear at West Ham is that we do lack a little bit of leadership. 6-month loan for Jordan Henderson. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'd actually think I'd be quite for it. And I think he may well be the player that West Ham absolutely need at the moment. Who thought I would say that sentence? Because of leadership, he is a captain, he is a strong personality. This is the player that West Ham absolutely needs. I'm not saying we don't need defenders and strikers and all that other stuff, but yeah, I think if we can go and get him, as long as it's not silly money. But hey, he's just done 6 months in Saudi, right? He should be minted for life, and so are his children and his children's children, if you know what I mean. Firmino, good player. I mean, good. He's got some teeth, hasn't he? And he's got some teeth, Firmino. Yeah, you could probably see his teeth all the way from Saudi Arabia. Two things you can see from outer space, apparently, the Great Wall of China and Firmino's teeth. I'd bring him in just for the teeth, quite frankly, but I think he'd be a good game. I think we are not in a position at the moment to... I don't think we're in any sort of position at the moment to be picky and choosy about players. I think we've almost got to get some in. Now, I don't mean get them in and sign them on a long-term contract. If we could get someone in for, a few months, I think maybe it will help. Listen, these are two really, really good players. The other guy he's talking about is Jota. Now, he was the former Celtic player. Can't tell you a lot about him. I remember Cub featuring him in a video on this very channel, and I'd watched a couple of videos, but I don't know. I mean, I always do wonder when we're linked with players from Celtic. Obviously, it's a bit like being linked to a player from Preston, because David Moyes has been there before. You think, oh, hold on a second. This is someone that we may well be interested in. So I do find that slightly believable. I think the other one is Kalvin Philips. Kalvin Philips is available on loan from Manchester City, apparently. Would we be interested in him on loan? I think we probably would. It's surprising, I think, initially from the outset that he is available on loan. But when you look at it, well, I think they bought him for 50 million and he's up for sale at 30. I don't think anyone's buying him for 30. I really don't. So maybe he goes to Saudi and we get him in 6 months' time. Who knows? But I just don't think anyone's willing to pay it. And I do wonder if Manchester City have found themselves in a position where they actually can't sell him anymore. I've said this over quite a few videos now for quite a long time. The financial situation that we got with clubs on the continent is here. The thing that was foretold, I guess the fallout from lost revenue in COVID, the fallout from dwindling television deals, not us, we're all right over here in the Premier League. But all the others, they can't afford these players. They really, really can't. When you've got Xabi coming out and saying that Barcelona can't afford to buy the best players in the world, then you know there's probably a bit of a, well, it's not there's a problem, but they're skin, aren't they? Very, very few clubs can still pay on the continent very, very big wages. So who's going to be out there is going to spend 30 million on Kalvin Phillips? Probably not that many. So I guess in that sense, there's a likelihood there. I want to move on to something else. So that's the X roundup, as far as I know, sorted out. I'm going to deal with Ben Johnson tomorrow because I think there's a little bit more of a... Look, I'll tell you now, Sheffield United, Rangers, Southampton, interested in Ben Johnson, but that's a separate video. I want to talk about this West Ham exodus with nobody coming in at the moment. We'll deal with the people coming in. Aaron Ramsdale. Are we interested in him? Are you interested in him? We seemed all right on the goalkeeper front. But again, he's a sort of big personality, isn't he? I thought he looked pretty good at times last season as well. Out in the cold a little bit. I like him. He's got personality, but I certainly wouldn't be chucking him in the team ahead of Areola at the moment because I think he's doing pretty damn well for us as well. There's more stories about Jack Clarke. I should probably say that as well. I mean, he's the manager, the Sunderland manager, has basically turned around and said no, he's not going to. He wouldn't encourage any bids. Crystal Palace are interested as well. Sunderland manager said he's not going to. Beale's there now, isn't he? Not going to encourage any bids. Well, I guess. You would say that. You have to say that. Can't say anything different, really, can you? Okay, I guess some managers do. We encourage bids, and this is the price. But I understand what he's doing. I don't think that means that he's unavailable. I just think he's just trotting out some lines, isn't he? Really. Let me just deal with this one here because we've got to talk about this guy, Jonathan Rowe. Now, you may well remember I did a video on this kid yesterday. Was yesterday? I think it was. I don't know, it's a lot of videos. I think it was yesterday morning, did the video on this guy in amongst a transfer roundup. Really good, very talented, at Norwich, featured prominently for the England underage groups, all of them actually, and suffered with a little bit of injury, and he's been in brilliant form this season. And it was quite funny, we mentioned him yesterday, and they played last night, Norwich, and he scored sort of a 90th minute goal or something like that. I didn't know what minute, I heard it was that. But first thing I knew was my phone pinged, bing, and it was Gio. And he went, look, is that Jonathan Rowe? He's, scored a blinding goal last night. And I mean a blinding goal. A sort of goal that makes you excited. You think, oh, go on, West Ham. Go and buy this player. I just want to sort of temper my excitement a little bit. We tend not to get these players. Whether they're Abir Eze, whether they're Keane Lewis Potter, and any number of these players who we might get linked with from the Championship, Alex Scott, it just tends not to happen. So I'm not going to get overly excited about this guy, it has to be said. But there's a lot of promise there. There's a lot to like. And I sort of hope, as I will sort of try and argue, or at least try and convince you in tomorrow's video, maybe it's more convincing myself, I do believe that there's with all these players sort of going and being on the cusp of going, I think there's got to be hopefully some truth in at least a few of these rumours of players coming in. Won't take much for us to be stronger after January than we were before it. It won't take much at all because there's so many of the squad we don't use. Anyway, we'll discuss that tomorrow. Last but not least, Danny Ings. Wolves want Danny Ings. They're concerned over his wage demands. Look, I'm quite clear about this. Look, if he wants to go to Wolves, he wants to go to Wolves. He's got a clear decision to make, and he's not going to be the first or the last footballer to have to make this decision. Is it football or is it money? Maybe Danny Ings has made enough money. And so it's about football. He wants to play some more football because he's annoyed with being on the bench. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Danny Ings has played enough football and it's all about money and he wants to stay, in which case he may well stay at West Ham. And do you know what? That's his right to do so. And that's on West Ham for paying for an injury-prone player. And he's not been particularly injured at West Ham, let me just say that, but that was his reputation when he came. But an injury-prone player who was unsuited to the style of the manager. I'd love to know. I don't think we'll ever know fully because I don't think anyone's going to admit to it. But I would love to know the actual truth of who signed that player because you have to seriously question their judgment, their footballing judgment on it. As I say, if it's David Moyes and he thought that Danny Ings was going to suit his system, I mean, what an idiot, basically. If it was, as some people suggest, it was David Sullivan, what is it that he's seen in the West Ham team under David Moyes that would even remotely make him think that this player would fit under Moyes. Was it Rob Newman? Whoever it was a bad decision. And I could, listen, if you want to scroll back to 12 months' time and you want to go and have a look at some of the comments in the chat of people who were saying this guy will not fit David Moyes' system, then, I mean, there's hundreds of them. There's absolutely hundreds of comments. So I don't know. I don't know how they managed to muck that one up. Anyway, there you go. That's why we done our 10 minutes. Most of it was moaning about Danny Ings at the end. Be back tomorrow where we're going to have a look at some of these players that are leaving West Ham. But don't be surprised if in between now and tomorrow's video that there's a whole load of other rumours of other players that are coming in. I'm sick of hearing rumours now. Now I want us to sign some players.